distinct from an academy, has all these extra freedom.
But free schools, are they funded by the government as well?
They're 100% funded by the government. So, for example, if you had a local church group and a community who felt that they needed a faith-based school and they wanted to establish one within their church community, and they are able to put together an appropriate plan, there are things that you obviously have to do, and they were successful, then they would receive capital funding for the refurbishment or build of a new school building, and then in perpetuity for 125 years you have a guarantee of funding from Parliament to pay for the running costs of the school and the teachers that are employed.
But the free school that has been established by the church, are they now answerable to, you know, the Ofsted? Of course, all the schools are answerable to Ofsted when it comes to inspection.
Yes.
But the local education authority, are they answerable to?
Not so much the local education authority. The idea of the free school is that it is actually free of local authority control. Nonetheless, the purpose of offering this opportunity to parents, community and the broader society is to raise standards and to provide a better opportunity for our students. I mean, Chris and I were talking earlier. There was a frightening statistic last year where the OECD showed that the UK was slipping really rapidly down the education league tables.
Definitely.
And 20%, almost 20% of our school leavers at 15 years of age, going on 16, are functionally illiterate and illiterate. Now what that means is they don't have a maths and reading age of 9 on leaving school. So in opening a free school, what we're hoping to do is motivate the students first, to engage with parents in the community secondly, so they feel that the school that's provided serves the needs of that community and the students. But absolutely, fundamentally, it is about raising standards, raising aspirations in young people, and, you know, motivating them to progress to employment, to further training and a job, and absolutely not to join the ranks of the NEETs, the not in employment, education or training.
Now, for churches who actually want to go into opening free schools, how can you go about it? Because in these free schools, at least they have the freedom not to follow the national curriculum exactly, but they must teach maths and English, and they can actually bring in their own messages and doctrines into the free school.
Right.
So how do they go about it?
Okay, now that's a very, I'm interested that you use the word doctrine too, because this is quite important. Faith schools are welcomed. And my personal experience is that we've opened schools with Sikh community, with the Muslim community, Jewish community, Catholic community, Anglican community. One of the requirements of being a faith school is that, first of all, only 50% of admissions to the school can be based on faith. So, you know, even if I'm a Catholic school and I want to open a Catholic free school, 50% of my students can be allowed in on the basis of Catholicism, but then 50% have to be from the wider community. We have a requirement that for those students who are attending the, even if it's a faith-based school, that there are alternative doctrinal, if you like, opportunities for them, because they may, although they're attending the local church school because it will have a good ethos, good vision, and good moral climate, and all the kind of things that parents would aspire to, perhaps they're agnostic and they would not necessarily want their pupils to be, children to be regarded as faith-based pupils. And the school would, at times of prayer and worship, be required to offer an alternative activity for their students. So you can imagine in a Muslim-based school, for example, whilst the students are at prayer or Quran studies, some of the other students might be doing world studies or something else commensurate with a social understanding and an ethical understanding of society and citizenship, but it's not necessarily faith-based. But that is in no way to put churches or anyone off wanting to open a free school.
Definitely, because churches are looking at opening a free school to raise the standard of education, to help with the morals in the country and things like that. So it has to be 50% of the pupils faith-based.
Admitted on a faith base.
Admitted on a faith base, and the other from the wider society. Okay, how can parents actually help with school children now, those going to school?
Well, there's a really interesting dilemma, because one of the things that we'd have to acknowledge, and I mean, God help us all, we've just heard, you know, of this dreadful scenario of a young baby starved to death, you know, at home and so on. And we occasionally get glimpses of the decline of the family. And in school, it's seen on a much more regular basis, because when we talk about students, 20% of them at 15 being semi-literate and numerate, school is only part of that problem/solution. Many children now, the National Association of Head Teachers, for example, wrote a report recently where they now talk about it being a much more common phenomenon for children of 5 years of age to attend school still wearing nappies and not even responding to their first name. And it's just indicative of the fact that many of our families now have become more and more insular. And even where we're not talking a broken home and a broken family, children go home, they have meals at different times, families might sit in front of the TV like this individually, they're not engaged around the table, there isn't conversation. As soon as the meal's over or the TV programme's over, they're in the bedroom, they're interneting, they're on their iPads or on their iPhones. And there's a breakdown of that level of support. So one of the key ways that demonstrably families can still have a major impact on school performance is school meal, family meals, sat round the table, TV's off, engagement, talking, knowing what your children are doing, literally knowing what your children are doing. And when the young teenagers, oh, I'm not interested, you don't understand me, and walk off and slam a door, you don't duck the issue and just think it's not worth the bother, because that child's walked away for a reason. It shouldn't happen in a family where you're constantly engaged, but maybe they're being cyberbullied, maybe something else is happening, and parents need to engage with their children, you know, from zero to when they're leaving school, they've got to be there. And it's the biggest